Man, sorry for the delay. We had some technical difficulties for real. Um, Hold on. We still kind of dealing with it. Everything gets a little loopy from time to time. Mm-hmm. Yep, just bear with me 1 second. Well, you're looking at some new developments that are happening here. You see, mm-hmm. Well, what's up, Lex? Cypress TV. Tell you what to do. They come on your page and try to tell you what to do. Well, I'm trying to make sure people get a chance to see it because they're really trying to block everything that's going on here. On the 17th, he's going to go before a bail hearing, right? Uh, Keefe D, that is. He's at Clark County Detention Center, and they're holding him there until his next hearing on the 17th. But there's been some crazy developments, man, involving this prosecution and him being prosecuted in this case is very, it's not as ironclad as I even thought. That they like he didn't violated it, he finna go down. It's a whole lot of stuff. When can we get the Casino wave? When I win on that parlay or LeBron James retire and the Lakers eliminated, we can Casino wave on them. Now, well, Las Vegas Metro Police, they're not as vast as Los Angeles. And since this was a crime that happened in Las Vegas, Keefe D was already under an, what you would call a proffer agreement after he talked himself into this grand jury indictment. His interviews over the last few years with these YouTubers about Tupac and the BET, everything he did with the murder case, along with his 200, not 200, but his 2019 is when he came out with that book he put out talking about Compton's most wanted gangster or whatever. That book. They all of this was presented to the grand jury, and they're going to be used as evidence against him. We all know that. So in 2009 is when he struck a deal with the Los Angeles investigators to tell them what he knew about the Tupac murder. Now, all of this happened in Vegas, but he was telling the Los Angeles police department in exchange so that they couldn't use anything against him in the court of law, that which we know, right? The proffer agreement. So with this proffer agreement, he thought he couldn't be touched because they had an ironclad drug case against him where he was looking at 30 years to life, right? So he said, I can't tell you about Biggie. I knew Biggie, I was there, but I could tell you what happened in Las Vegas with Tupac's murder. So, in exchange for this information involvement with Tupac's murder, uh, they got the confection under a proffer agreement. But when you go outside the agreement, that's when they can decide to charge you for the crime. Now, it was made very clear to him back then that if he was given that protection, the protection was limited. This is what the former Clark County prosecutor and the current private personal injury attorney, James Sweeten, said. I would have made that clear to him back then that when we're giving you this protection, that it's limited. It's not a full immunity. Now, Keefe D's attorneys, because before he didn't have any legal representation, he just got legal representation right before his hearing, which they postponed till the 17th. Okay, I'm just making sure. Yes, hit the like button coming through the door. Carcino's the name on the Cash App. Um, you know, like the video, super chat, super thanks, all of that good stuff. Now, moving right along, because of this agreement that they have in place, a lot of things started to differ and go in a different direction, right? Now, everyone knew that what he was doing, standing protection of confidentiality, what they call it, this LA proffer agreement, and it can be used as an issue for the prosecutors. You see, a defense attorney and Keefe D's defense attorney, they're going to argue the statements because they were subject to what is called a use immunity. And this is what he's going to use in court, in which they cannot be used against me. And it's a use immunity. And they're trying to differentiate what that proffer agreement actually really meant. And they're going to argue the protection doesn't hold in Las Vegas because the agreement was made in another jurisdiction. That's what the prosecutors are trying to make, that he made this deal in Los Angeles. So that can't be used in Las Vegas. That's what they're trying to wrangle over him. But that's another issue now because, see, the other issue is that they have to deal with the fact that another law enforcement agency at another location that concluded that proffer agreement and made that agreement, the DA office here and the local law enforcement in Las Vegas had nothing to do with that. So regardless of whether it was a proffer agreement was made in another jurisdiction, the DA said they've collected enough evidence outside of his protected words. But that's pretty thin because no one's alive to really connect the dots. But it's a long shot for Keefe D, but there's a chance he can get out. Yeah. See, when things happen a long time ago, there's always is a trade-off. They're gonna say we had immunity on this, and it was supposed to be there. It wasn't explained, and they can't prosecute us for this information because there's no way to prove any of it is really factual. Can you prove it? Someone could admit it to something in a proffer agreement, but you can't really prove his involvement in it. So in a case like this, things that happen a long time ago, there's a trade-off. One hand, there's physical evidence, and then you know when it happened or if it's deteriorated. Also, witnesses don't remember things in great detail after 25 years if you did have them. However, it's not uncommon for suspects to talk about crimes years after. Believe it or not, defendants like to talk about their crimes. I think that might be the case for Keefe D, and that information in those statements, he don't seem like the sharpest tool in the shed. So now everybody wanted more information about the Poffer agreement, but the Clark County DA office, they saying we're not giving you any details about the proffer agreement between LA authorities and Davis. However, on Wednesday, after Davis's court appearance, the district attorney, Stephen Wilson, told reports he's certain the state's evidence will prevail. But the proof is evidence, and the presumption is great that he will be convicted, you know. So if you have the evidence to really back it up, then maybe that there's a case. But I don't think Keefe D's getting out, ladies and gentlemen. Vegas would not grandstand as much as they did Nevada. They want a big closing. They opening up all this money into Vegas. They want to be able to shut this thing down. It's giving them a lot of publicity worldwide, not just Las Vegas. This is what they want. Tupac was on the cover of like People's Magazine again. No, his defense has come up with a way that they can get around it. Well, this would hurt other cases when people want to cooperate with authorities that they make deals with. They're gonna say, "Well, you guys are gonna roll over us like you did Keefe D." But most times it don't because people just want to get the hell out of jail. And if it's in a rat, they're a rat. And mostly they do that if they feel the threat of what's gonna happen to them or their families or whatever. If they do it. Now, if they feel he ain't heavy, he ain't gonna do nothing to me. They ain't. Why wouldn't they not roll over on you? They don't have no honor, no loyalty, nothing. They don't no spine. So a defense attorney will definitely try to use those statements because they'll say that it was a use amenity. And when you have a use immunity, even though it's a proffer agreement, they say this is a use amenity. in which they cannot be used against me, period. But Vegas is another, Nevada is another state from California, and even though they're only 2 hours away, LA and Vegas, two different places. So, what your proffer agreement you had in Los Angeles, Vegas, they might not honor it. Well, when you start talking about a crime you did and alluding to it, and then you just start going outside of the lines, the proffer agreement saying what you agreed here is private. You can't talk about it. Once you've talked about it, you basically open Pandora's box. Keefe D didn't talk about it for years until he got sick with cancer and he found a way to make some money. But like I said, he's not the sharpest tool in the shed. There was ways he could have worked around doing that without being in the situation he in now. No, it's a long shot. Well, if you got a use immunity rather, it's a whole different. It's a different one. It's like having immunity from all things. It's not full immunity, but it's enough where they call a use immunity, where you can't use it against them. Period. And they were saying that, well, he was never fully explained what a use immunity was or use immunity. And it's normally for a witness, like it protects QFD from the use of their own testimony against him, but does not prevent the government from using other evidence obtained in an independent source. So they might have other evidence to convict Keefe D, and they're going to need it. They can't just depend on we got what he said in the proffer. We can use all that against him in the interviews and all this because there's no guarantee everything he said in the interview is legally is like the truth. If you don't have the evidence to go with it, it's null and void. There's nobody left for Keefe D to really tell on. So of course he was dragging Diddy's name around like Diddy, 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 Diddy. But he know Diddy didn't do it. And if you watched his interviews, he's not saying Diddy paid him to do it. He's never once said Diddy paid him to do that. He's saying, man, Diddy should have looked out for me, man. This ways he got around me. He should help me out, man. I'm his boy, man. He just forgot about me. He took care of all these other people, man. What about me, man? He should have took care of me. You see that? He should have taken care of me. Well, according to the actual grand jury testimony, Idi Amin he was brought in for questioning. Idi Amin was the closest guy to see what happened, him and Gaddafi. Edie was right next to Frank, and they were riding in the car right behind Tupac. Edie, I mean, testified because he was subpoenaed to come in to testify. So he came there under the subpoena. No, Raiders, it's not simple. That's dumb. If somebody just say they did something for me and you didn't tell somebody to do something, period, how's that on you? You didn't tell anybody to do that. And they damn sure weren't doing that for no Puffy. First of all, they're in Las Vegas. Dude just got violated on the strip. They already had beef with them dudes. And everything you know about Orlando and those crew is they will get down at the drop of a hat. No, I'm not Puffy's friend. I just use common sense in the process of elimination. I don't let the internet think for me. My brain knows how to think and process information. I don't go because everybody is fandom and drama and they just want to see it. The process is no. One, no one knew Tupac was even going to Vegas for Mike Tyson's fight. It wasn't announced, nothing. They were going to 662 to do the whole shooting anyway. They were going to 662 to shoot because of what he did to Orlando. They violated him. Zip did not even, him saying he got guns from Zip and all that to do it is the stupidest thing ever because there would have been video cameras from where he said it was. If that was the case, that's a lie. Zip didn't give him any guns. He's trying to use any connection out there because Zip is from Harlem and he lived in LA, Vegas. So he's trying to use that connection to Zip to say, oh, Puffy told, yeah, get it to Zip. And then he gave Zip some money and he's supposed to give it to us. It was $1 million and it was supposed to come to us. $1 million for a hit. Let that sink in. As I told you, Keefe D is not the sharpest tool in the shed. You can tell he didn't stay in school very long. Yep, he violated somebody who didn't play. People have died for less. Now, apparently, Orlando got into it. 6 months later, he lost his life around the same time. A couple, like it was a, I don't think it was 6 months later, but it was some time later. He about maybe what a year later or something. He lost his life. um, trying to go collect the debt. Some dudes owed him money. He was actually going there, stopped at the restaurant to get something to eat. He went and pick up something to eat, and he saw the dudes that owed him money, him and his boy that he was riding with. He didn't pull out his pistol. He started telling them, "Yo, man, you owe me that money. Where's my money?" Dude was with his brother, and both of them was talking back. And then the dude pulled out a gun on Orlando, and Orlando was like, "Whoa." He stepped back, and his brother was like, "Nah, man, don't do it like that. Don't like we're gonna pay him and all that." He was basically very rude and yelling curse words back. So this dude, his brother talked him into putting his gun down. He's putting his gun away. Orlando pulled out his and blasted, dropping the brother. Then his other brother, he ended up returning fire and hitting Orlando. Then Orlando's boy, who was with him, picked up Orlando's gun and shot and killed the brother and finished off the other. And then he took off. So it wasn't, oh, he was going to pick up the settlement check, and then these dudes met him and they took him out right before he can get to the money. Wasn't the case. I just told you everything that happened in the Orlando situation. Orlando, how he lost his life. He went there and set that off with them when he saw them. So he, testified on the night of what happened. He saw the car pull up next to Pac. He saw a large arm come out of the window with the gun aimed and start shooting. And they said, "Well, what color was the arm?" He said, "African American." It's in his testimony when he described it to the police officer in the grand jury testimony. And this is Edie Amin. Said Frank got out the car. Immediately after it happened, he tried to run up to the car where Suge and was. Suge sped off and ended up making a U-turn, hitting the corner, was driving the other way. And Frank ran back to the car, got in the car, and drove to follow them. Pac never saw them. Idi Amin said he saw Tupac because he was talking to the girls in front of him, but he couldn't hear what they was actually saying. But he assumed he was inviting them to come to the club. The girls is on this side, and Tupac head was turned that way, giving them the attention. And when the shots went off, he turned his head back to see what was going on. So it was all in an instance. Yeah. So that's what happened. You guys have to realize there was a grand jury interview with the people as well. Greg Kading or whatever, he can't be trusted because he's trying to service the LA Police Department because Russell Poole was putting them in a different situation. See, this is Los Angeles. This is Vegas. This is different. The police department is not as vast as the Los Angeles Police Department. So their resources are not as dramatic. I'm not gonna say they Mayberry Police Department, but Los Angeles Police Department is a little bit more vast and dealing with robbery, homicide, and everything else. Las Vegas robbery, homicide detectives they're not as equipped. The Los Angeles, the Biggie situation was entirely a different, more organized situation. But I have some very revealing information about that night that's going to change a whole lot of people's beliefs. And, well, what they should know about that night. Well, people don't understand gangbangers and gang culture. Gangbangers and gang culture, for those who are active, they don't care about going to jail. They don't care about somebody losing their life and this and that. They look like you took one of ours, we take one of yours, we taking them off the board. Like it's they move by a different energy and set of rules that is don't have any borders or no governors or thinking about how is this going to affect my family, my future, my career. They feel like they have nothing, they come from nothing, they don't care. That's death is a release for them. So they will go to the wall and back. They will pull out anywhere, restaurant, whatever. If it's going down, it's going down. It's either them or me. Now, those who are actively and they live and they live in that lifestyle in that moment, those ain't people you play with. Now, if a man bit you down with his fists, like Pac, them, they saw you with fists. You, I feel you should come back with fists because if this was an organized hit, it wouldn't have been done on the Vegas Strip. Would not been done on the Vegas Strip. What's up, AG? I just saw you on Facebook. Man, I just saw all y'all pictures, man, at the wedding. You see, AG called me by my name that most of y'all don't know. Happy Friday the 13th. That's right. You know, this is my lucky day. I was born on Friday the 13th. So it's always my lucky day. Perez and Mac weren't involved in the Tupac situation. They just wasn't. Yes, y'all. AG actually knows me. When you hear somebody call me magnificent, they mean they know me. Yeah, he'll probably beat y'all in any no limit trivia you ever come up with. Oh, West Side dropped a new album. I haven't heard it yet. I have to check it out. Tupac died in almost every movie he was in. Yes, we will be dropping the link so people can come in here and talk about it. But yeah, Tupac died in almost every movie he was in. In Juice, he died. Above the Rim, he died. Um, in Bullet, he died. And in the last movie he did, gang related, he died. So I said, yeah, that would count as almost. Poetic Justice, he survived. And that movie, the other guy he did when he was a junkie and life is a traffic jam. They survived Gridlock. Yeah, he survived in Gridlock. Well, Gridlock was supposed to be called Traffic Jam, and it was changed to Gridlock. But the majority of his movies, he died in a very violent way. Plus, he always talked about death. He was fearless. That's one thing about Tupac. He was fearless, completely fearless. It was not a hit from Puffy. People just can't accept what's actually right in front of their face. All of the evidence and everything that he said pretty much revealed itself. And when they revealed it, and what happened in Vegas, because no one knew Pac was going to be in Vegas. And after the fight, he was in the hotel room. The only thing they knew is that, that dude was supposed to be going to Club 662, which is in Vegas. So they were going over there to meet them in Vegas. I mean, at 662. And they saw them and they busted U-turn to go get him. Well, because most of you guys haven't studied bullet holes and forensics and looked at reports and read it and see what actually transpired. If you looked at the Biggie situation, that was different. Those shots were organized. The grouping of the shots indicated that the person who shot was a professional or had shot before. That person had training. The person that shot at Tupac had no training. You can tell from the grouping of the shots. The shots are everywhere. They hit a door like from a slant. You can see where the panels where they went to the door. One went into like the dashboard, and you could see they were shooting directly at somebody that they wanted to get, but it was all over the place. So that definitely isn't a police officer's shooting in the Tupac situation. Definitely not. Keating is trying to take away from what Little C's actually did. The LAPD was so complicit in the Biggie Small situation that Viola Wallace, Biggie's mother, sued them in court. And with all the evidence that they had, because the case wasn't being investigated, they were going to be called involved in this wrongful death lawsuit with the police department, with the LAPD. So they had to solve that case fast. They said, we got to solve this thing fast. We got to put this thing together. Now, everything Russell Poole, who was the police officer at the time, is doing is damning the police department because he's tying up everything that showed dirty cops in this Rampart scandal. What Greg Kading wanted to do is show you it's only three road guys and they rarely had anything to do with anything. It's just three guys. And, now who's going to believe that? See, as I told you, they had the Rodney King situation that put everything on blast. They had a guy who was beaten almost to death in his yard by the police for no reason, wrong person. And Mark Furman was a detective at the time, just taking pleasure in just going to random people's house and beating the living hell out of them. Now the Furman tapes, many of you never heard, but I'm gonna find a way to get that on the Patreon for y'all. So, because you need to hear it, and you'll understand what OJ was going through. For all y'all who think he did it, OJ didn't do it. Now I'm gonna tell y'all right now. Here's the situation: you had the riots that broke out in '92 after Rodney King. They got released and said they was innocent. The city had enough, and they started tearing up the city. '94, OJ's trials coming around. LAPD is can't have a riot. OJ ends up getting off, and people thought they did that because they didn't want to riot with OJ Simpson. No, with the Rodney King situation, no, they thought this was going to be an open shut case until they start figuring out the information and the evidence rather. It was like, oh my God. And if you ever took the time to really look at the evidence of what really happened, it wasn't as slam dunk as you thought. With that kind of evidence, somebody would have been up the river. They got a bloody glove, they got this, they got when you look at it and you see that they sabotaged a lot of that information. Furman, OJ surrendered blood voluntarily at the police station. Now, why would you voluntarily give people your blood? He had no lawyer there yet, or anything. He voluntarily gave up his blood so they could try to match it. If you went and you actually did anything of that sort and they got blood and stuff over there and they want to see if it matched, why would you submit your blood if you did it? OJ submitted his blood because he knew he didn't do it, so he knew his blood wouldn't be nowhere in that thing. That's why he submitted the blood. What's up, Lisa? There's a thing called this thing of ours. I don't think it was okay. That's a lot of money in Vegas. I'm coded. Oh, I know exactly what you're saying, Lisa. And I know about this thing of ours. And this thing of ours definitely didn't approve of it because it caused a lot of friction. A lot of things were shut down with traffic, with people couldn't move because it was, this happened on the strip. And that doesn't happen on the strip. But you got to understand, it's not operated like it was back in the movie Casino. Those guys are out. It's more corporations now than it is those guys. Those guys evolved and their children were sent to colleges, good colleges, got degrees, and they're in the corporate world and they're running businesses now. So it's ran differently, but it's still this thing of ours. It's just evolved. It's more corporate now. See, they got smart with it and realized our children ain't finna follow in our footsteps. We got to have them. We want to do this to provide a better way for our kids so that they can have the opportunities to go out and do the stuff. We do all the hard stuff. We're going to let them fight a different way. Now, going back to after Orlando passed, they went to his home and they retrieved what they said is the murder weapon. Now, I'm here to tell you that the so-called shells that they got from Keefe D house and then he's supposed to be for 25 years ago, the bullets didn't match the shells that they took out of Tupac. So all the bullets that they had that they tried to say, oh well, he had them for all these years, they tested it. The bullets do not match. Okay, which why would he have those casings? Like still have those casings. I don't know if it was Reggie, Dre, whatever. I mean, not Reggie, but Orlando or Dre or one of them. But all four of them were in the car. They get the same time. They all did it. Even the driver, he did it. That's how it goes. You all get the same case, the same verdict. That happened to my friends. They did a robbery. It went wrong. One of them decided to beat the hell out of the old man, and the old man died. And all four of them are serving life in prison. And I should rephrase that. These ain't my friends. These are associates, people I knew. And the guy who actually did the actual incident was just getting ready to go back to the UK. He's not even from here. He's really a black guy from England. He had dual citizenship. Yeah, and I mean, it was almost me. If I didn't have to go to work, they asked me for a ride to drop them off over there. They didn't tell me what they was gonna do, but I could have been roped up in all of that. Imagine if I dropped them off there and they go in there to do a crime and then run back to the car. I'm going to jail. I'm complicit as hell. there's a lot of weirdness to that, to why he wouldn't want them armed, but like the security, meaning that they're, especially when they're licensed to have their firearms. Like I said, that is something that is very weird to me that Reggie would need to explain. Reggie was the head of the security. He is on him. Tupac death is on him. One, I just go by what I know certainly. He dropped the ball. He didn't protect Tupac. I see how one could say that, hey, he disarmed them so that they could do what they had to do and then leave. That makes it easy. But see, here's the thing though. If the security is disarmed, they don't know when where Tupac was or when he was. They weren't following him. Plus, Pac had a caravan. It was a caravan of some hitters that was following them. They had guns, but they had them in their own car, and they was riding with him. They rode up beside him and was like, "Yo, what?" They went to the club. They didn't stop at the light like they did. They went through the light, and they was like, "Oh, they hanging off at the light, man. We gonna go on over to 660." So they just pulled off. That's what y'all didn't know either. Reggie was fired. And then Reggie got mad about it. Reggie lied about it first, saying he didn't know. Then he realized he had recall. Now he remembers he did get fired. But Suge told him, Pac can't fire you. I pay you. Don't you mess around, Reggie. You better put security on Pac. Don't you leave Pac out there with no security. He don't want no security, then fine. I won't put nobody on. I won't get all these guys to be out there doing that. He's like, Reggie, don't play. I pay you. Pac don't pay you. I pay you. Put security on him. Don't you dare. You said I can't wait till the Patreon. Yeah, it's so many moving parts, but it's just looking at what you got provided in front of you. That's too much circumstance. You know, even if security went armed, some dudes that was cool with Suge and the Blood and all them, they were armed and they were in the car. They just end up going. They were with the caravan of cars. Then they pulled up on side of them, was hollering at them, "Yo, what's up?" Blah, 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 blah. They was going to 662, and right when the light came, they just decided to run the light. They went through the light. Then they pulled off to the side, like, "Oh, they gonna wait at the light. We gonna meet them at 662," and just took off. So imagine if they would have been there and them shots would have went off. They went straight to Club 662. So when they got there, they had found out, somebody told them, "Yo, man, they just got shot. Suge and Pac just got shot up on the strip." And they was like, "You kidding? You lying? We was just there. We just saw them." Like who? Where that happened at? They was with the caravan. That's another car, sir. That was a whole nother car. I'm talking about some other guys that was cool with Suge mostly, and they was mostly cool with MOB. The car you talking about is some. It's a whole nother car. Yeah, they did give chase, but that's what I'm saying. If security didn't have it, the fact is this happened on the strip. There was no, you know what I'm saying? There was no chance of that. That was a happenstance. This was supposed to happen. When my friend lost his life, the odds of that happening is like 1,000,000 to 1, probably a zillion to 1. He was at home in bed for the day. His girlfriend had to go drop off some keys. She forgot to leave the key for her grandmother. So she was going to drive. She's like, I'll be back. I'm just going to go drop this key off at my grandmother's. I forgot. And he said, no, I'll drive you. He left all of his things, his cell phone. He had a pager. He had basically everything he had was there besides his wallet. Everything he basically left, and everything was organized just the way he was. He was like military trained. Everything was organized, his gym shoes, everything. Just had it all organized. So he decides to drive her. And when he's driving her, they pull out on the street. The guys that don't like him, just they were at another bar, got kicked out for fighting. They end up like a pickup truck. They're riding. It's a guy in the back of the pickup, and then they're in the front. The two in the inside, and the one guy he's in the back flatbed, and they're riding. And as he's turning out, they're coming down the other street, and then they end up side by side. And then they're throwing gang signs to him, and he's not responding. He's with his girl. He's waving, hi, just waving at them, and they're throwing gang signs, drunk on drugs, whatever. And he just like pulled into the gas station so that they could just go by their business. And then they pull off on the side of the gas station, on still on the street, while he pulls in, and he's not paying them any attention. He's turned around and gave her all his attention. And he's like, I'm not worried about them. And normally he would have been paying attention, but he's, trying to keep her calm in a sense, because if he freaks out, she's gonna freak out. So he's keeping her calm. Like I'm not even worried about that. Like he didn't even need gas. He just pulled off to the side so they could drive away, so he can go back to dealing with her, and going about his the day. And he turned to her and was like, "So what Jay-Z song you want to listen to?" And boom, 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 boom. And then they drive off, and one of the bullets came and hit the car. The first two hit like the back door, and then when he turned to see what was going on, because he heard the shots hit the car, the bullet hit his nose and went back to his brain. Had it been 1 inch over, it would have hit her in the face. He died instantly. She got out of the car to go get people to help, and he was gone. So that's how he lost his life, and all for nothing. But the odds of them two meeting at the same time on that road, that's 1,000,000 to 1. So it's like a happenstance, like this was supposed to happen at this moment in time. Why? I don't know. At that moment in time, When Tupac, the way he got shot, that was 1,000,000 to 1 that that would happen that way, that moment, that time, and those people who was there who could have had mowed those guys down, and immediately it happened, they ended up taking off. Sir, a sideways holding gang member. Um, I don't know if you know anything about gang members and shooting, but gang members don't always shoot. That's like mostly the movies. Some of them do, but they normally don't. To say the LAPD is complicit in the Biggie situation, absolutely. What Greg Kitting did was turn the attention away from Amir Muhammad. Amir Muhammad was the guy that Little C saw and identified, the Muslim with the bow tie, and he was walking around out there, and he's the one that's photographed when you see Gene Deal in that photograph when Puffy was getting in the car, and Big Gene pulled out a gun, told him to back off, and he did. And once dude backed off, uh, that's the same guy Little C's described as he saw the guy holding the gun, and that was him. They never showed him a picture of him at the police station. Rafael Perez was there picking up shells. It's like, what are you picking up shells for? Like on the crime scene. Like he's not even a detective on the scene. What is he doing there touching evidence? But there's a lot of developments into that situation, and I'll talk about that later. The Patreons, you will get that first. Because there's a lot to unpack there. But going back to the Tupac situation, but this is what I'm saying, Greg Kenning can't be trusted because all of the evidence was leading up to that guy, right? From testimony and people saying eyewitness. Now you want to put a Suge Knight blood in the car and say it was him. Well, we got word from this girl who knew Suge Knight. She was like his running girl, and she did everything. She always visited him, and we got her to testify that they hired Poochie, who's like 5'2", was never seen anywhere at the party or nothing. No photographs, no nothing. But he was there in that car. It was Poochie. It's like what that does is saying the evidence, we got a witness saying it's this. So you could keep spending money, going to court, wasting the money. They're gonna keep delaying it, saying, well, the LAPD's got a witness, they got some evidence that's going in another direction. It's not going towards Amir Muhammad and the cops, it's going towards Suge Knight and the Bloods. So now Greg King is saving the LAPD as Viola Wallace end up dropping it because they're gonna keep just draining money out of her because they're going to keep going with the narrative of that lie. Nope, Poochie had nothing to do with it. And anybody who know better, and that's what it was. It was complete other disaster. Of course, Perez knows, but we'll talk about that at a later date. I'm just trying to show you that you can't trust Greg Kading. Nothing Greg Kading says is true. Like you can't believe nothing that guy says. He was there to service the police department to turn the investigation somewhere else so that they could free the LAPD from Miss Wallace's lawsuit. That's why he was there. Now, yeah, well, they're hoping that this new evidence or the defense that they're going to use is called use immunity. That try to take away all of the evidence that they are going to present in what they called a well, it's the grand jury. A use immunity protects the witness from the use of their own testimony against them. You can't use their testimony against them. And they're saying we're not using that, but it's all bets off when he goes and do an interview. See, a proffer agreement is a limited situation saying that we can't prosecute you on the evidence you have presented to us. But if you present it elsewhere, so it's basically like everything we talk about is confidential. Now, if you talk outside of this confidentiality thing, this opens back up, and now I could prosecute you off of it. See, what Keefe D assumed and what he thought is that he had full immunity. This I got immunity and I'm going home. That don't work that way. You could have negotiated full immunity if you was smart and had a lawyer. This is why I told you he's not the sharpest tool in the shed. This guy ain't that bright. And everything about him has told you he has not been that bright. What do I believe happened to Frank? I think Frank was he was doing too much, and Frank ended up. They say he took his own life. I don't really buy that one. There's people here in Chicago who really don't believe that. No, damn well Puffy ain't had nothing to do with that. He's being 50 Cent. Yes, his legal loophole, it could free him if they don't have the prosecution has to prove they have other evidence. Okay, that new evidence you can't just depend on the proffer agreement, because if you just have the proffer agreement, that's not going to save you. If you thinking that's going to get you out of something, that's not going to get you out of anything. You're going to still be in the grease. Yes, 100%. Mm, that's very interesting. Another very interesting situation. But what you talking about right now is all Patreon VIP material. So we will get there. Believe me. Dana White is cutting ties with USADA because he don't control them. And he's saying, well, I'm gonna cut your money off. Why am I paying you to mess up my program? So yeah, that's gonna cut some ties. Hmm. Yeah. So the one thing Keefe D is leaning on that can help free him is from that legal agreement that he had, and it wasn't. If they could prove it was never explained to him that he didn't have a use immunity. He just had a proffer agreement, and what he thought that in his use that couldn't be used against him, and they're going to play that card and say that they had no grounds to get the wiretaps or anything else. So all that evidence that you just gathered now is admissible if they can prove they had. It depends on what evidence they have. One, because they would have to provide new evidence. What guaranteed the search warrant? How did you get the information to get the search warrant? Now, if you got it illegally to get that search warrant, or they say, "Oh, we he violated this agreement and he went there and did these interviews." Well, if he had a use immunity and they could prove that that use immunity was ironclad for even Vegas or anywhere else, because that's what he thought he possessed. Oh, hold on. I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. Now, if they don't have anything new and they prove this is the only thing that we have is this proffer agreement, and the proffer agreement is that's it. Well, you're going to have a lot of problems on your hand, because the main problem you're going to have is the fact that if they can prove it's a use immunity, all that new evidence you got, if it's based off of him violating the proffer agreement, they could waive that inadmissible, can't use it in court. None of that's valid. The search, everything, it would destroy everything. So that's how he could get free. That's a slim chance, knowing that Vegas and what they went through to do this would embarrass them real bad to get everybody hopes up, like, oh, this is going down. I don't know what Caden put out. I don't like Greg Caden. Why would I be repeating what he put out? I don't know what he put out. I'm just telling you the truth. Thank you, Mr. Thompson. Appreciate that. I don't know what that dude put out. I do not listen to that idiot. I'm not saying they're gonna make up some evidence. I'm just saying all the evidence, if it's predicated on something that was he had immunity off of, then it's not gonna be admissible in court. If they could prove that, if it's all coming from the proffer agreement, and if they prove that that proffer agreement was really a use immunity and wasn't a proffer agreement, that he had immunity, can be prosecuted off of anything that he's done, you can't use that to go gather other evidence against that man. But it was like, no, if new evidence presents itself, well, new evidence presents itself, but not based off the information that's in that agreement, then yeah. But if it's in that agreement and you go get some new evidence and then use it against him, like if it was something that he didn't tell you and you find that out, then yeah, then that you could use against him because he didn't tell you that in that agreement. So if he tell you something new, then yes, you can go off of that. Like, hey, you didn't disclose that, so that's not in the agreement. So that's what his defense team is going to push for. That's their only way out, is to prove that proffer agreement is ironclad and that was a use immunity, and my client was never explained fully what that was, and they did not give him anything in writing saying this is what it is, this is how this agreement is. My client was never explained that. He didn't have legal representation. That it was, all of this can be used by a lawyer for the defense. And yeah, that could put him in a situation to get bail, but he ain't getting bail. But I'm just saying that is the case right now and what it could appeal to be. Like, it ain't as slam dunk as I even thought it was. So I don't know what that you know crazy cop did, but he had some issues. I don't know what I don't know what's going on with, or what issues you talking about. Absolutely. So I'm gonna get up out of here, y'all. I'm gonna holler at y'all a little later on today. I got some stuff I gotta do, so I'm gonna have some uh, videos. So just go to the Patreon, because Patreon, y'all gonna be loaded up today. You're gonna see the full video of what happened with that you should have gotten yesterday with the Genie Ma, and I had to do some editing just so that they can approve it. But Patreon, we got the full version, baby. Full version. Yep, and that's for all tiers for that full version. I put that for all the tiers, so y'all get to check that out. All right, we out.